Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. I will be showing you pictures from my river trip from Paris to Normandy on the River Seine, which is 485 miles long. It starts in Burgundy and ends up in the old French capital of Honfleur, and you see the picture of it right there. This is the longest navigable river in France. Medieval history was really strong here. It was the highway of the medieval kings, knights, cargo, military, and all commerce. My name is Zygmunt, and I invited Richard from Ama Waterways, a premium river cruise line, to help me out a bit here. Ama has more top awards for European river cruising than any other cruise line, and he can fill the many gaps in my knowledge. So let's start.
I am actually going to push this now back over to Zygmunt. So imagine now that we're kind of starting off at the beginning. This is his trip. I'm starting off in Paris, and he's now going to walk us through with his personal experience what's on board. So Zygmunt, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Richard. I took a few photos, and actually a few hundred, maybe 1,000 photos, and I chose about 30 at random or 40 just to show you. This is, of course, the Notre Dame Cathedral. I was there a few months before it burned. You see the spire in the middle, and that's no longer there right now, and a lot of the outer part, the inner part, was destroyed, which is a real shame. The Notre Dame Cathedral, plus a lot of the buildings that are medieval and really great in France, are located on two islands right in the middle of Paris. And those two islands are on the River Seine. And they started about 52 BC by the Romans, and they kept building out until it wasn't the center of town until in the Middle Ages. The construction on the Notre Dame started about 1160 or so, and it was completed about 100 years later. And then it was damaged during the French Revolution when they came in and just wiped out a lot of the artifacts inside. Napoleon was crowned here, and the real popularity of Notre Dame really happened when Victor Hugo wrote the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And the latest fire was in 2019, kind of destroyed it. And we're ready to go to the next slide. Richard and I are located about 100 miles away. So he's got control of the slides, and I don't have any control or even what I'm talking about. No. This is the same river in Paris. And you see that people are right there, students and workers are taking their lunch right in the middle of this little jetty right beside the river, and the cathedral is on one bank over there. The river is close to 500 miles long. It starts in Dijon and ends in Normandy on Florida in the English Channel. This right here is the Saint-Germain district. You might know that Paris has a number of districts. One of them is Saint-Germain. All kinds of little shops, all kinds of people strolling through it, and cafes, and you have the Latin district, you have the fourth district, which is the oldest district in Paris, which includes the Jewish district, and the Paris Gay district is the fourth district. You have the Latin quarter, which is the fifth district, at part of six. And the Latin quarter in the sixth district, you have a lot of cafes, lots of students, because it's Sorbonne University is right next to it. Great for cheeses, bakeries, wine cellars. And Sacre Coeur. Oh no, actually, I have the Louvre. Well, I'm not going to be covering too much about the Louvre. It's just huge. It is something that you will take days and days to go in. The Louvre, if you go into it, make sure that you go to buy tickets ahead of time. Don't wait in the ticket line because you'll be waiting for miles. And the next slide will show you. But you can see the pictures on the left-hand side. And if you look carefully on the left-hand top picture, you see somebody's head, which will show you how big the picture, or the painting, sorry, I should say painting, actually is. And now on the bottom, on the left-hand side, you see somebody holding up a little cell phone taking a picture. This is coronation of Napoleon, that bottom painting on the left. And you notice, if you can see right in the middle, it's actually Napoleon holding the crown because he wanted to coronate the crown on his own head. That's how powerful he wanted to be, and this was done actually in the cathedral.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's an amazing, amazing museum to go to if you haven't had a chance to go there. 10.2 million visitors approximately each year that visit the Louvre. So an amazing place to stop. So really allow yourself some time. So when we talk about this options, this would be one great example. This isn't a place you want to run through. You want to be able to have some leisurely time here, in addition to all the other streets.
There are 35,000 pieces of art in the Louvre. So that's a lot of art. One very important thing: buy the skip the line tickets if you're doing things on your own. If you're not going to the cruise, I don't know what it was, cruise tour, which would have the skip the line tickets already in there. But if you're doing something on your own, additional, whether it's the Versailles, whether it's the Louvre, whether it's anything in there, buy skip the line tickets. Those would be much better to avoid the line. Okay?
Good job.
Now, this is the Palace of Versailles. This is one of the excursions that I really recommend you take. This is just a little tiny palace that's really huge. And there used to be a hunting lodge of, I believe it was Louis XIII, sometime in the 1600s. And it was Louis XIV, which was his father, transformed it into the largest palace in the world. And he was like a trendsetter. It only has 2,300 rooms, so it's very tiny. And it's on 170, I think it was 178 acres. It is the largest palace complex in the world. There's all kinds of fountains, all kinds of lakes, and I think the next slide will show you a tiny backyard, or part of it. Just a part, and it goes back further. You can see probably 3 more times of what you see already. It's just his backyard. Yeah, a lot of growing, and they didn't have electronic mowers at that time. This is, in Versailles, this is the Hall of Mirrors. Mirrors. I always pronounce it wrong, that's mirrors. You know, the things that you see yourself in. And this was the summer. I was there in June, July. And if you cannot avoid the summer, try to go a little bit earlier. It won't be as crowded. And again, buy the tickets prior. Skip the line tickets. Otherwise, I think I might have the line, or I don't know if what the next slide shows.
One quick note on Versailles, because we don't presently offer a trip over to Versailles, at least not going forward. So this would be one more reason why you would want to even consider having 3 nights in Paris, maybe beyond what we're offering, so you can take in some of these things and just allow yourself the time to explore a bit further.
Absolutely, yes, because Versailles is, you take a whole day going to Versailles. You have the Eiffel Tower. You have all kinds of things you want to see in Paris. One thing to remember, Paris is the streets are very crowded. There's small streets and a lot of people driving on it. So if you, I know a few people that decided to rent a car in Paris, and they were kind of sorry about that. Plan on taking from the airport to downtown Paris or to where you're going to be on the ship or in a hotel. Sometimes it takes an hour. That's how bad the traffic is. So, but you do want to see this Versailles is really a fantastic place that it's just amazing what they do. You can see all these people looking up. I don't know if it's a bird or a plane or Superman, but I think it's the frescoes on top, which are really fantastic. This is right before we were leaving. On the left side is the photo of the top of the deck of the Omaha, whatever ship that I was on. And you can see the big chessboard, the lounges. One thing that's very interesting is that Omaha ships can go under all the bridges, whereas sometimes when the water is high, some other ships cannot. The captain will tell you, okay, everybody sit down, don't stand up, because you might lose your head.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you bring up there, also because our owner, Rudy Schreiner, is an architect by trade. So when he designed these ships, he was thinking of all these different things. The railings that you see on the side in this picture on the top left, those can actually lower. The bridge, as Giverny mentioned, that can lower as well.
One thing that really surprised me when floating away from Paris are all the different houseboats that you can see on there. The imagination on some of these people, what they did with the houseboats is just fantastic. On the left top, you see some graffiti, which you don't see very much over there, but this was a very big graffiti mural on the wall. And bottom right, you can see just sitting there and watching the river goes by and the scenery. One of our first stops was Les Adlis, which was founded in the 6th century. We got the bicycles off the ship and went riding through the town, which I strongly would recommend. It's absolutely fantastic. This was formerly the strongest fortress in France. It's in ruins now. It was built by King Richard of England in the 12th century, and he built it to defend against the French. And the French took it over in 1204 and had it since then. We bicycled along the banks and through the old town, and they took us over to the old city hall, showing us the history, the paintings, and it was really nice. As you sail down the Seine, sitting on the deck, looking at the river banks, you see all kinds of homes and houses and some very interesting architecture. Just sit there, sip your coffee, eat your chocolates, and you'll be really, really in heaven. Now, King Richard, the Lion-Hearted, was imprisoned in this castle. He was coming back from the Crusades, and a storm forced his ship to land. He was disguised and tried to escape, but he was captured by Leopold V of Austria. And in 1192, he was put in this Dürnstein castle. Richard bought his way out with what's equivalent to billions of dollars and went back to England. Now, on a river ship, you sail at night, and during the day you import, unlike the ocean ships. No crowds, no waves, a great way to sail. Cabins on the ship are all river facing. I shot this photo from my cabin as we were sailing. Now we are on the Baltic coast by the cities of Le Havre and Honfleur. Honfleur is a very old port on the shore of the Seine estuary, and it's the whole area is a takeoff to the Normandy beaches. You can see the narrow streets, and once we see the next picture in Honfleur, you see slate-covered houses. Here it is from 13th, 14th centuries. Really beautiful side, beautiful area. This was a focus of a lot of painters like Monet, Baudin, Jonquind. And there's a famous church here, St. Catherine Church, which is the largest wooden church in France. It was made out of beams and masts out of ships. This port, Honfleur, was a 12th century, very, very big shipping port for the goods to England. And in the 1608, Champlain sailed from here, and he found Quebec. Now, little streets. Now look at this beautiful old 12th century, 13th century alleys that you can just imagine. The knights, the drunken sailors, and all kinds of fights going on between the French and the British among these walls. Okay, here, I thought there were two girls painting, "Please do no more war." When I got closer, I realized those are not two girls painting. The two girls are actually painted on the wall, which I found very, very interesting. This is Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial, where 9,388 young servicemen were buried. This is overlooking the bluff at Omaha Beach. Two sons of Theodore Roosevelt are buried here. Two Nealon brothers, whose story inspired the Steven Spielberg Saving Private Ryan's here. This is called The Spirit of American Youth Rising from the Waves, because mostly young men died.
Here we honor 9,386 soldiers, but also on the Wall of the Missing we honor 1,557 service members whose bodies were not recovered except for 19 of them. and the average age here in this cemetery is 24 years old. Therefore, the statue in front of you, carved by Donald DeLu, representing spirit of American youth rising from the waves. So with an average age of 24 years old in the cemetery.
The enormity of the tragedy really hits you when you walk amongst all the crosses, thousands and thousands of crosses, as far as the eye can see. In front of the World War II monument, there was a pond or a little lake with the lilies that I shot the picture. This is Omaha Beach Memorial, and unfortunately there are no people, so you couldn't see the size of this. It's actually huge, and the waves just came in, so people left. But the tide comes in and goes out, and this is where the thousands and thousands of young Americans and allies attacked the beach and were just mowed down by machine guns. And this is one of the big guns that would shoot at the Allied ships. This can go out to about 13 miles. And there were about 4 of them, or 5, I don't remember exactly. But this is a big, big gun. Now, over here on Normandy beaches, an area, we were lucky we had 3 different choices of tours. And there was one in the morning, and one in the afternoon, and one next day. And you can take, I would recommend the Honfleur half-a-day tour in the morning. Then in the afternoon, I would recommend the Le Havre bike tour. And next day, the World War II landing beaches, US sector, really, really great. I didn't do the UK and Canadian sector, so I do recommend those trips. And we were lucky that Ama does all 3 other river cruises. Many of them just do 1, and they charge for the rest. We're on the ship now getting ready to go to Rouen, which is known as the city of 100 spires. In the 17th century, the city was actually the 2nd largest city in France. It is now known for many things: the Notre Dame Cathedral, the 700 or so half-timbered buildings, and the fact that Joan of Arc was burned at the stake here in 1431.
You can see on the left-hand side, during World War II, this town was really attacked, and about half of it was wiped out. And they left some of the buildings still with the bullet holes, the history. Remember what happened. On the right-hand side, you see the Joan of Arc Joan of Arc Church, where Arc was buried next to burned right next to it. The church was built, of course, later, but it has some fantastic stained glass windows. And if you're into stained glass windows, that's it. You got to go and see this church, because almost all around you see nothing but stained glass variety, and my picture does not do it justice. And one of the things that you see, that since this town has so many cathedrals or so many buildings, and a lot of them, these gargoyles, these giant gargoyles, you look up and you just wonder which one of them is going to hit you in the head. Well, none of them did, really. But here's one on the left-hand side that I kind of zoomed in and took a picture of. But all these places, beloved gargoyles in this town. I have no idea why. This is from the Palace of, this is the Palace of Justice in Rouen. And as you're walking past, you will see a variety of different buildings that are just absolutely fantastic. It's worth the town tour. And also, chocolate tour or a food tour in there, you really have an example of medieval architecture downtown. Plus, you have some famous restaurants right next to the church. You have buildings that have been there since 1300s, and they look like it. They're restored very nicely, but they're really medieval buildings that you can just imagine. And you know, somebody's going to ask you on the tour, why are those stones right there by the entrances? And I didn't know until I found out. Well, that's because people had to get up on their horses, so they had to get on a stone in order so they could get on a horse. So when you're going to some medieval towns, you're going to find right by entrances a bunch of stones sitting there. So that's for people to jump on a horse. Yeah. This is right next to the church. Joan of Arc was burned, and people don't know, but she led the French army. Some people don't know, most of you probably do. I didn't. She led the French army to a number of victories against the British or English. And she said she received a vision from God to support France against the English. And for that, when the English captured her, they buried her at the stake. But she won a number of battles. She converted a number of generals. Generals who were in their 30s, 40s, 50s. She led them against the Brits. And you know when she died? She was only 18 years old, 19 years old. 19. Here's just one example of one of the churches, and you see dozens of them as you're walking through the town. This is the town right at Giverny, which is right next to Monet's garden. These are a lot of artists who live there. Artists who are modern, and artists who live there for 400, 500 years. And now that we're in Giverny, the tour us to Monet's garden, which is the next picture. This is where he took all his ideas about the lilies and the flowers. I could have thrown in a whole bunch of flowers, but I really didn't want to spoil it in case you're going to be seeing it. Some beautiful, beautiful flowers there. And here is when we were leaving the towns. You can see the kind of, again, interesting sights you would never see going down the California River, for example. Next, we should have, this is Napoleon's Chateau. Now, although it said it's Napoleon's Chateau, but actually, Josephine is the one who bought it. Josephine bought the chateau when he was in I believe it was Egyptian campaign in 1797. Now, after a while, she kicked him out, and he came back after she died, when he lost the Battle of Waterloo. And he stayed there for a little bit and then got exiled to St. Helena. On the left, you see Napoleon's bed. He was a short little fella, so you can see the bed is short and you can't fit too many people on there, just him. On the right-hand side are one of the many opulent rooms in the chateau. It's really a fantastic experience to go tour through it. And on this one right here is actually Josephine's bed. Her bed is much nicer, a little longer. What you don't see here on the other side somewhere was his mistress's room and bed, which I didn't take a photo of for some reason. And on the right is Napoleon's library. This is finally when we were back in Paris, and this is where the ship landed. And you can see the Eiffel Tower all lit up with great lights, etc., because it was 4th of July. We ended Paris 4th of July 2019, and the French really, no matter what people say, the French really love the Americans for liberating them. They made a big to-do with the Eiffel Tower, with all the lights, with songs and music, and you see that little Statue of Liberty right in front. So again, we're back in Paris, and that's my little short pictures. I'm going to post all of this and a lot more later on this week on our website. Richard, back to you.
Just a few things that I want to be able to make you aware of. Being able to protect your travel investment. First of all, I can tell you that we are a solid company. We are not going anywhere. We are financially stable. We've got strong financial backers. We have all of our fleet completely paid off in full, including 3 ships that are going to be delivered next year, paid in full. In addition to that, you as a guest of ours can purchase something called Travel Waiver Plus for a nominal cost, and it would allow you to protect full travel investment. You can go ahead and cancel for any reason up to 24 hours prior to departure. Again, you don't get necessarily, you're going to get a full monetary refund, but let's say you cancel within 60 to 90 days prior to departure. Normally there's a 35% penalty that we would assess if you're canceling for a non-covered reason. In that instance, what we would do is rather than having you completely lose that 35%, we would retain it as a future cruise credit. So when you're ready to book, we have that available for you for your future cruise credit. The next slide that's coming up right here, we are the only American river cruise line that's currently sailing the rivers of Europe on one ship in particular, it's Alma Christina. This right now is exclusive to our German-speaking audience. So it's operating on the Rhine presently, doing 5 nights, 5-night sailings. It was a great way for us to be able to put into motion some of the things that we've been making plans for in terms of what it's going to look like when we go back to river cruising. So our German audience has been wonderful. If you've had a chance to go out to a restaurant in town recently, you know that when you walk into the restaurant, you wear your mask. When you sleep, you can go ahead and take that mask off. But if you get up to use the restroom or you're leaving the restaurant, you put the mask back on. It's basically the same thing on board. In addition to that, we're upgrading to hospital-grade disinfectants. We're increasing the frequency of the times that we clean everything on board the ship. And I can tell you that there's a lot of cleaning that went on prior to this. But again, doing everything that we can to ensure the safety of our guests. And here's just a few pictures of the folks that are have been able to go on board. The response has been really positive. We've had a number of people actually book a second cruise. This slide right here is a look at our lounge area where we put these plexiglasses in place so that you can actually, once again, when you walk the seat, wear your mask, you sit there, you can take it off. It's got these nice unobstructed views. You can talk to the guests that are sitting behind you.
Important to say that you only have 100 people on the ships right now.
Yeah, this is true, at least until further notice. One of the rules that came out from the European Union was that we cannot have any more than, I think they said more than 75% capacity on board, which would, based on the average capacity of our ships, would be somewhere like maybe 105, 110. We opted to just go up to 100 guests maximum on board every one of our ships. So even Alma Magna, which holds a total of 196 guests, it is the single largest river cruise ship in the industry. So none of them are quite that large, but even on that ship, no more than 100 guests on board. So very good point, Susan. Thank you for bringing that up.
And I've been on a number of cruises, river cruises, and there are the mass market cruises that are a little bit different. Then there's the upscale cruise, which on our waterways, I call it much upscale because the wines are premium that are free. During lunch and dinner, the premium beers, lunch and dinner are free. The tours are higher, much higher end tours. It's a different experience going on a river cruise where you are treated in a better quality and not nickel dime to death as some other well-known river cruises.
Point. Thank you for sharing that. That's right. I know that was pretty comprehensive. That was a really thorough overview, though, of really all the different places you get to stop. I know we didn't share a lot of what the onboard experience is like, but hopefully some of the things that we've inserted give you a really good idea of what that onboard experience is like, coupled with the land destination experience. It's just the best way to travel. In addition to actually being on the cruise and stopping at these destinations, we have some wonderful themes depending on when you look to travel. So the Christmas markets being one that we're going to talk about next week. It's a magical time, I'm telling you. But also we have like our celebration of wine themed departures, which is another really great experience where we send a North American wine host on board. He's your expert guy. He's talking about how the old world wines differ from the new world wines, and just a wonderful experience. So hopefully you'll be able to join us next week as we talk about the Christmas markets. And just before we're looking to close here, Zygmunt, is there anything else you might want to add?
Yes, if there are any questions whatsoever about cruises 2021, 2022, and later, just please email me rivercruise@rivercruisecenter.com, and if I don't know the answer, I'll get it for you. And thank you very, very much for listening, especially to me, which Richard makes sense. I sometimes do not.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Be safe, and we hope to welcome you on board sometime very soon. Have a good night.